lovely people. My name is Roelle. I am a health and nutrition coach and a diabetes practitioner based in Hale near Manchester, and I post these videos mostly once a week to motivate you to be as healthy as you can be. And today I want to talk about something that I probably have talked about before, but I think is such a big issue for a lot of people when it comes to healthy living that I don't think there's any harm in talking a little bit more about it. It is emotional eating. So eating when you're not hungry, but you're eating for a different reason. And that's not always a bad thing, by the way. But if you do that regularly, then of course it will have an impact on your health, and then you might want to think about what you can do to avoid it. So I'm talking about these moments when you're eating but you're not actually hungry, but you reach for food anyway, maybe just because it's there, or it could be that you've had a stressful day, or you're feeling bored or lonely, or you just need a bit of comfort, and that's why you end up grabbing food. And more than often it is junk food, that food that will give you that instant good feeling with sugar. Now I know that I said I've talked about it before, and I know that there is a lot of general advice about it. For example, drink water instead when you feel like comfort eating, or go for a walk, or just distract yourself. But if it was that easy, then everybody would be doing it, and nobody would be having a problem with emotional eating. So it's obviously not that easy. So I want to go a little bit deeper today and share a few lesser known strategies when it comes to avoiding emotional eating, and just to sort of help you to really understand why you're doing it, and that can often give you some more helpful solutions on how to avoid it. And it's not by fighting your cravings and using willpower only to try and sort it out, but actually to understand what's behind that behavior. So first of all, you need to understand what you're actually really hungry for. And when you're emotionally eating, it's often not food, it is something else. It is an unmet need. It is something that you need and you're not getting, but it's not food. How do you even know whether you're emotionally hungry or whether you're physically hungry, whether you actually need some food? Well, there are a few signs to look out for. If it comes on very suddenly, then it tends to be emotional hunger. If it's more gradual, so you're feeling a little bit hungry and then you feel more hungry and more and more and more hungry, then it tends to be real physical hunger. If you fancy something very specific like chocolate, pizza, then it's more likely that you're not physically hungry but you're emotionally hungry. But if you're craving food but you don't really mind what it is, then it's more likely that you're physically hungry. Also, when you emotionally hungry and you start eating, often the feelings of hunger don't go away. But if you're actually really physically hungry and you eat, then you will find that the hunger is reduced or even goes away. So it's just a few things to think about when you're wondering whether you are emotionally hungry or physically hungry. So going back to understanding emotional eating, then it's not really about food, it is about unmet needs, something that you need. When you find yourself reaching for snacks, maybe just stop yourself for a moment and ask, what am I actually hungry for? Sometimes it's comfort, sometimes it's rest, sometimes it's a connection or a distraction from a difficult emotion. But if you can identify the real hunger, then you can respond to it properly, and then you're less likely to go for the junk food. So if you're tired, maybe what you really need is a break or an early night. If you're lonely, maybe you need a chat, a hug, or some time with somebody who gets you. If you're stressed, maybe your body just needs movement, or some slow and deep breathing, or maybe simply just permission to pause for a little bit. And once you start recognizing what you're actually feeling, what your emotions are, and what your body is asking for, what your mind in that instance probably is asking for, then food becomes one option, but not the automatic one. And so the more awareness you create, the more mindful you become about deciding what you're going to do to sort out that unmet need that you have. Now, it can also be really helpful to stop labeling food as good or bad. And now, I will say there are healthy and unhealthy foods. I'm not really one of these health coaches who say, oh, there's no such thing as unhealthy food. Well, there is. There are quite a few foods that are just really unhealthy. But the more you label food as good or bad, the more likely it actually is that you are going to eat emotionally. When you restrict yourself too much, you build up a sort of a mental pressure, and eventually that pressure can burst, and suddenly you're eating the very thing you said you wouldn't, and you feel guilty about it afterwards, but it's because you sort of build up that pressure around that certain type of food. So sometimes it can be really helpful to just relax a little bit about, whether or not it's going to be good for your health. We're all going to be eating food sometimes that is not great for our health, just because, we want the pleasure from eating it, and that's okay. So instead, try to remove that sort of moral judgment from the food that you're eating, and look at it as neutral. Some food nourishes the body more than other foods. Some nourishes the soul more because you get pleasure from it, and both have their place in a healthy, balanced diet. The less guilt you associate with food, the less likely it is that you're going to fall into some emotional eating spiral. Now, another strategy that you could try is to create emotion buffers, and it's one of the most effective but underrated strategies to avoid emotional eating. Emotion buffers are just small, healthy rituals, so good things for your health to do, that help you to release emotion before food becomes your coping tool. So, for example, have a playlist that instantly makes you feel good, that maybe lifts your mood or shifts your mood. Maybe keep a notebook where you can brain dump frustration and sadness, so you're already creating these tools to help you cope with the emotions that can cause you to reach for junk food. Step outside for fresh air, or do 2 minutes of deep, slow breathing using essential oils, which I'm a massive fan of, like lavender, bergamot, that can help you to reset your nervous system. The key is to have quick go-to practices, little rituals that can help you to process emotions straight away in real time, so you don't need to suppress them with food later on, so you're dealing with them head on. Now, your environment obviously can play a big role as well in emotional eating. Emotional eating thrives on convenience. If crisps and biscuits are the easiest thing to grab when stress hits you, guess what you'll reach for? You're going to have the crisps and the biscuits. So make your environment work for you. Keep nourishing, comforting foods visible, easy, already maybe prepared, like fruit, nuts, Greek yogurt, boiled eggs in the fridge, or lovely herbal teas. And make the less helpful foods a little less easy to grab. Not forbidden, but maybe just not front and center, first thing that you see when you open the cupboard or the fridge. If you have to go through a bit more effort to get to them, then they become less obvious, and then if the healthy foods are more obvious, there's more chance that you're going to go for them. That small tweak in your environment can make a big difference in the choices that you make, and of course that will have a massive impact on the outcome. Now, another thing that you can do is to stop yourself for a moment. And in fact, when I say that, I think it's a really good idea to not try to stop yourself altogether, like forbid yourself to do the emotional eating, but just say, well, I can have the chocolate, I can have the crisps if I want to. I'm an adult, I can make that decision. But I'm going to postpone it. I'm not going to do it yet I'm going to give myself 20 minutes to try something else. And if I then still want the chocolate or the biscuits, then I can take a view on whether I'm having that in 20 minutes or half an hour. And often when you then start doing something else instead, 20 minutes later, half an hour later, you don't actually need that chocolate or the biscuits so much anymore, and you might be in a better position to avoid it. Asking yourself, stop yourself for a minute whilst you take that little break before you decide whether or not you're going to go ahead with the biscuits and the chocolate or whatever you were planning to eat, is give yourself a moment to think about, how will I feel after? If I have this now, how will I feel after? And yes, you can also acknowledge that you feel really good. If you have that chocolate, you feel amazing. But how will you feel after that? Will you still feel good? Or maybe will you feel a bit guilty? Or maybe even feel the effects of the sugar rush and, and then crash and feel tired afterwards. So really give yourself a little bit of time to think about, how will I feel if I have that food, snack, or how will I feel if I do something else instead? When your emotions are running high, your brain will only focus on the right now. So that's why we want that instant gratification. That's why it's so easy to just grab that food in a moment. Your logical brain will take a break and your emotional brain takes over. So one powerful way to interrupt that is to ask, how will it make me feel afterwards? And it's not like you want to try and guilt trip yourself. Obviously, that's not healthy. But just gently reconnecting with the future you. And that can often be enough to make a better decision. And if eating that food still feels like the right choice, fine. That at least you've considered it and you've made a more intentional choice. But often you'll find that just pausing, think ahead of the outcome, and that can break that automatic pattern and helps you to make a more conscious decision instead of an emotional one. Now, here's something that many people overlook. Emotional eating often happens because joy is missing elsewhere. So sometimes it's good to add something good instead of focusing on taking away something that you want to stop doing. If your life feels like an endless list of responsibilities, food can become the only moment of pleasure, and that makes it more likely that you end up in that emotional eating spiral. So instead of trying to cut out emotional eating and focus on that, focus on adding joy back into your life. Do more of the things that fill your emotional tank, and when your emotional tank is full, then it's less likely that you need to do the comfort eating. A hobby, a walk in nature, good music, connecting with people who lift you up. Have a think about, what makes you feel good. And when you have these other ways to experience pleasure, then food stops becoming your main source of comfort. Then another technique that I like is the upgrading technique. And what I mean by that is, instead of trying to go from emotional eating straight to perfect eating, upgrade your emotional eating. So if you normally reach for crisps, maybe try roasted chickpeas or a handful of nuts. So you're still eating something, but you just upgraded the quality. If you crave something sweet, maybe have a few dates with nut butter or dark chocolate instead of biscuits. So you can make a slightly better choice. So you sort of gradually shift towards healthier choices. It's a bit of a mindset shift. So it's not like I mustn't eat this, I can't eat that, but I can choose something that supports me better. And each upgrade that you make will build your confidence and your balance. So over time, this whole sort of emotional connection with food will then start to change. Another strategy that I like is to use rituals instead of rules. So rules create resistance, and that applies very much to myself. I don't like rules at all, and it does make me sound like a bit of an anarchist or a rebel. I'm not really. I'm quite a compliant person, but yeah, rules in sort of make me feel resistance, and that's the case for a lot of people. But rituals create comfort, a feeling of comfort. So if you use food as a way to unwind, replace that ritual with something equally soothing, but something that's better for you. Maybe light a candle, make a lovely herbal tea, put on some relaxing music, or do a short breathing exercise. Your brain isn't craving food as much as it's craving soothing. So you can think of other rituals apart from snacking that can give you that sort of soothing. And yeah, of course, that will help better. It will restore your brain far better than the junk food that you're about to eat. So I've already mentioned this, not resisting it. So try not to fight it too much. If you feel that you really need some chocolate to feel better, don't start by saying don't do that, but yeah, just say I have that option, I can have the chocolate, but let's have a think about what else is available. I think that's probably the most powerful strategy. It's just that little pause that interrupts the autopilot of going to the snacks. So to sum it up, emotional eating isn't failure of willpower. It's just a sign from your body and your mind that something needs more attention, something needs some deeper attention. And instead of fighting it, get a little bit curious about it. Ask yourself, what is it then that I need? Create these emotion buffers, reshape your environment to work for you, and make time for small moments of joy. And when you treat yourself with compassion instead of judgment and criticism, then emotional eating starts to naturally fade away. So it's not like you're fighting it, it will naturally go, will be reduced. If you find this useful, then give me a thumbs up, or maybe even subscribe to my YouTube channel. I would really love that. And thank you so much for those of you already done that. And thank you so much for watching. If you're interested in my crafting, which I always add on to my chats about health, then do hang on. If you couldn't care less, then please feel free to leave, and thank you so much. After the crafting bit, I also always add a little bit of photos and videos of stuff that I've been up to this week. This week we had the grandchildren a bit because my daughter and her husband were organising the Manchester Wine Festival, and so we were lucky to have the kids for a sleepover, and we had a lovely meal out, and of course we took them to the wine festival to have a look around. So I've put a little bit of footage of that, and I can't actually remember much else of what I'm gonna put in there, but if you want to see it, you'll just scroll forward, and if you want to miss out the crafting, then again, thank you so much. Don't forget to set yourself one action for this week. Once a week, ask yourself, what is the one thing that I can do this week that's going to help me to feel better? And just focus on that one thing for 1 week. And it's such an easy way to always stay in action mode. Do one thing, see how that goes, and then next week decide if you want to continue with it or if you want to do something different. Right, if you're still here now, then I'm guessing that you want to hear about my crafting. I've been working mostly on finishing this jumper. It's the Lento, is it sweatshirt or jumper? I'm not sure. It's called Lento. I'll put the details in the description below this video. I've already, I made a Lento before this one, and I like the shape of it. It's quite sort of a short, I don't know if you can see that, I'll try to stand up, so it's not very long, so I can wear it on high-waisted trousers and my skirt. The one I made before, I made with merino fingering held together with mohair, and that gives it sort of a nice fluffy feel and look to it. I prefer that one. This one I made with blue-faced Leicester, and I think I've showed you the ball band of it before. It was I actually stupidly haven't got it here now, but I will link it again. I will put it below in the description box. No, this is not it either. So, but I have spoken about it before. It's good quality yarn. Blue-faced Leicester, I looked it up. It is yarn that is strong. It's often used for socks, and you can even make socks with it without nylon and silk added to it, because it is very durable. Now, that's handy, but it doesn't really matter for a jumper. And I do find, and I mentioned that before when I was knitting it, it nearly feels like sort of a rough cotton rather than a wool. And I'm not a massive fan. And I suddenly remembered that I do actually have blue-faced Leicester socks, which there's a stiffness to it that I don't really like, which sounds a bit weird if you watch one of my older videos where I talked about the merino sock wool that the Wool Warehouse, Yarnsmith, their own brand of merino sock wool, is really floppy, and I was moaning about that. And now you think, first it's too floppy, and now it's too stiff. And this is going to start to sound like a really weird conversation. We aren't. But yeah, I can only say how I feel about it, and I'm not that, actually a little bit disappointed. I like the look of it, I like the colour of it, so I will wear it, but, and I was thinking, well, maybe it will feel better after I wash it, but then I thought about the socks that I've got in the blue-faced Leicester, and they don't actually improve after washing. It's still that sort of bit stiff. I don't mind yarn being a bit rustic, because I like Lento and Shetland. I don't mind that sort of rustic, but I think it's more, how it sits in terms of how it flows. It doesn't really flow. It's quite stiff. Hard to explain, but I find it really interesting that I are starting to learn about which yarns I like, which kind of blends of yarns I like and which ones I don't like, because not that long ago I probably wouldn't really think about it, and now I'm getting a little bit more sort of knowledgeable about what's what and what I like and what I don't like. So I know that I like that combination of merino with mohair. I like Lento, which is actually very rustic, but I do like that. I like Shetland wool. So I think that's good. That's interesting to know. I think I like yak as well. I did, was it camel actually? I had some camel yarn, and that was nice too. It's very soft, and yak is also quite soft. So yeah, I'm happy. Really like the shape. It came, I did exactly the same as I did with the previous one, but this one is a little bit tighter, but I don't mind that. It wasn't meant to be an oversized jumper. Apart from that, I have done a tiny little bit of crocheting on the shawl that I'm doing, the Marcula shawl. I will put the detail in the description, but only just the tiniest bit. I've started on the second colour, so I started with the blue, with a lovely greeny yellow, and now I've started with the first lightest colour of pink. And then, so that's that one, and then it will go back to yellow again. So yellow is the color that keeps coming back in between these minis. And then these are the Manos del Uruguay yarns that I showed in a previous video. So if you want to see more of those, then go back to the previous video. Then I will go to the slightly darker pink. Then this beautiful, I call it a rhubarb type color, that it's got sort of orangey, browny, pinky, and then after that it goes darker to this one, which is sort of a kind of maroon colour, and then the last one will be the very dark sort of burgundy, nearly browny red. Really enjoying crocheting it. It's quite a loose sort of pattern, probably a bit looser than I had expected, but that's okay. I think it will all look nice when it's done, but I'm mostly just enjoying doing it. And it was really nice to work on that after this jumper, because this is done on needle size 6, and the needles I'm using are the Knit Pro needles. Well, actually I use Chargu for the body, and they're very sharp needles, and with the sort of quite heavy yarn and thick needles, to push the needle with your index finger whilst you're knitting, I sort of created a bit of a hole in the top of my finger, and it starts to really hurt. So I was glad that I could just go to the crochet and not have the needles pricking my finger. The Knit Pro that I use for the sleeves, the shorties, which I loved, and now I will never not knit sleeves without the shorties. It was so nice not to have to pull through the magic loop the whole time. I could just keep on knitting. Really enjoyed that, and I can definitely recommend that mindful collection of short interchangeable needles by Knit Pro. That is linked in my previous video in the description box. But it was really nice to crochet for a little bit. And then as a tiny little side project this week, I do make Christmas cards every year, but not very many. In fact, we hardly send any Christmas cards anymore. I think that's the same for a lot of people. We used to send, I mean, in Holland wasn't really a thing anyway, all these cards that they send in the UK. But when I first moved to the UK, we would send loads of Christmas cards every year, and then it got sort of less and less and less, and now it's not many at all. So I'd like to make them myself and either draw on it or watercolors, crochet something or knit something. So last year I knitted little socks with Christmas yarn from name escapes me. It's a really famous yarn producer, but this year I decided to do something different. Of course, do something different every year, and I wanted to knit little jumpers that people can use as Christmas decorations. That was the same with the little socks I did last year. I made a little ribbon on it, stuck it on there, pinned it to the card, but then they could take it off and use it as a Christmas decoration. So I found this pattern for these adorable little jumpers. It's made with Little OP as the main, and then also just some Aran colours that I had, so you can see close up. Cute, really like it. I'm going to make more, but I think I'm not going to use this pattern. I will link the pattern below, but I don't really recommend it. It's a bottom-up pattern, and I think I'm going to try myself to do one, make it up myself, top down. And yeah, the bottom-up, obviously I'm not going to tell you exactly how it goes because it's a paid-for pattern. You can find also free patterns. I found a few free ones since as well. I didn't pay a lot for it, but I just wanted some instructions first to see how it goes. And I did also like the little colour work in it. So now I think I can make my own version, starting top down. And yeah, I will make a little ribbon on the top, so whoever receives it can hang it as a Christmas decoration in the tree. I do enjoy those little projects because it's such a quick result, and it's always nice to finish something, isn't it? So this week I'll continue on my crochet shawl. I will start working again on my collar work vest, and find a different way of making the little Christmas jumpers. So that was my crafting this week. I hope you had a lovely time doing whatever makes you feel happy. I will add a little bit of videos and photos now of my week this week, and I hope to see you again in my next video next week. Take care, lots of love, bye.